King Solomon was never praised for how much he knew. He was revered for how deeply he understood. That's the first truth people miss when they chase wisdom. They think it's about acquiring more knowledge, more books, more facts, more quotes. But the man regarded as the wisest to ever live did not ask God for knowledge. He asked for understanding. Because understanding is not the accumulation of data, it's the ability to interpret life, to see beneath what's visible, to make decisions not based on noise but on principle. Napoleon Hill understood this distinction clearly. He said that knowledge is only potential power. It becomes actual power only when it is organized into definite plans of action and directed to a definite end. In other words, knowledge sits but wisdom moves. And when Solomon ruled, he didn't rule with emotion or impulse. He ruled with a mind that could see what others could not. Think about the story of the two women who claimed to be the mother of the same child. This wasn't just a tale of cleverness. It was a demonstration of what real wisdom looks like in motion. Solomon didn't consult scrolls. He didn't call a committee. He understood human nature, and he used that insight to reveal the truth. That is a level of clarity you must begin to cultivate, not just facts, not just surface-level advice, but a mind that reads meaning in every situation. Modern success culture tells you to learn more, consume more, sign up for more. But Solomon's wisdom, Mike Hill's philosophy, tells you to go deeper, to take what you know and internalize it, use it, turn it into a living tool that helps you navigate uncertainty with strength. You don't need more information, you need more application. Knowledge can inflate the ego, but wisdom humbles you because the wiser you become, the more you realize how little you truly control, and yet how powerful you can be when you master your own choices. That is where greatness begins, not in the books you finish, but in the principles you live by. There is something else Solomon teaches us here: quiet mastery. He didn't have to proclaim he was wise. People came from kingdoms away to witness it because true wisdom speaks through results. You don't have to tell people you're thinking at a different level. It shows, it radiates from your posture, your decisions, your ability to remain calm in chaos. Napoleon Hill knew this too. He wrote that the most successful people are those who think for themselves, who filter every bit of information to their own reason and experience in a world chasing noise and novelty. Be the one who understands, be the one who applies. Because that's what separates intelligence from transformation. One gathers, the other changes you. So stop chasing endless input, start seeking clarity, start asking, how can I live this? How can I apply this? Because when wisdom begins to guide your steps, you stop reacting like the masses and you begin choosing like a king. Knowledge is everywhere. Wisdom is rare. Seek understanding, and your thoughts will shape your destiny. Before any man rules the world, he must first rule himself, and that rule begins in silence. King Solomon's greatness was not born in noise, nor forged through chaos. It was cultivated in stillness, in a deep, deliberate internal space where clarity lived and emotion surrendered to reason. And this is where most people fail, not because they don't know what to do, but because they never quiet their minds long enough to hear what wisdom is trying to say. Modern life rewards speed, distraction, and reaction, but Solomon's mind operated differently. He didn't respond impulsively. He processed intentionally, in that ability to pause, to reflect, to make decisions from the center, rather than the edge, is the hallmark of someone who walks with wisdom. It's what separates those who lead from those who follow the crowd. Napoleon Hill wrote that successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly. But that decisiveness does not come from pressure. It comes from preparation. A mind trained in stillness isn't frantic when the world moves fast. It's ready because it has learned to sit with the noise without becoming it. That's why your inner stillness is not just spiritual, it's strategic. It's the soil where intuition grows, where insights come together, where the unconscious delivers answers that logic alone can't manufacture. Solomon didn't just think, he listened. He listened beyond voices, beyond emotion, beyond the surface of the problem. He listened for truth. Today, if you want to lead, build, or create anything of value, you have to cultivate the same discipline, the discipline of silence, The discipline of internal order, because when the mind is still, the vision becomes loud. Too often we search outside for answers that already exist inside. We drown in content, compare ourselves to others, and confuse noise for knowledge. But Solomon teaches us something radical. The highest decisions are made from the quietest place. There's a reason most people don't access this power, because it's hard to sit with yourself. It's hard to confront the truth beneath the distraction. But if you want to lead your life with wisdom, you must become comfortable in that sacred space of stillness. That's where alignment happens. That's where your thoughts begin to match your vision. Hill warned against drifting, against letting your mind be pulled in every direction by outside influences. He called for definiteness of purpose, but purpose can't form in confusion. It needs space. It needs stillness. Just like Solomon carved his inner throne before he ever sat on the external one, you must govern your mind before you attempt to govern your circumstances. Stillness isn't passive, it's preparatory. It doesn't mean inaction. It means your actions are rooted, focused, free from reaction. Because only then can your decisions carry the weight of wisdom, not fear, not pressure, not pride. When you learn to sit with the tension of not knowing, you build the strength to receive clarity that others miss, and that clarity becomes your edge. The world moves fast, but wisdom waits. Learn to be still, not to escape, but to prepare. Because from that stillness you will rise with decisions that change everything. Solomon's legacy is filled with gold, with palaces, with power. But none of those are the reason his name still echoes. Through time, it was his discernment that made him unforgettable. The story most people know is simple on the surface. Two women come forward, each claiming to be the mother of a child. There were no witnesses, no evidence, no legal documents to verify the truth. But Solomon didn't panic, he didn't guess. He understood human nature, so he issued a command: divide the child in two. And just like that, the real mother revealed herself not through what she said, but through how she felt. That wasn't luck, that was the genius of discernment. And this is where so many people miss the mark. They confuse intelligence with wisdom. They think quick thinking is the same as deep insight, but discernment isn't a trick. It's a muscle, a mental ability forged through reflection, experience, and a fierce commitment to truth. It's the ability to see through things, not just at them. Napoleon Hill understood this intimately. He wrote that successful people possess accurate thinking, the rare skill of separating facts from opinions, of cutting through emotion to get to principle. And in today's world, that skill is rarer than ever, because now emotion is currency. Outrage sells, haste is rewarded. But discernment doesn't move fast, it moves right. Discernment means knowing the why behind the what. It means when someone speaks, you're listening not just to their words, but to the intention behind them. It means when opportunity shows up, you don't just see the glitter, you evaluate the foundation. It means you can tell when someone's loyalty is real or convenient. And most of all, it means you trust your inner radar more than the noise of the crowd. This is not paranoia, it's mastery. The same mastery that allowed Solomon to rule wisely. The same mastery Hill attributed to every great leader. He studied from Edison to Ford, Carnegie to Lincoln. These men didn't just make decisions. They saw them before they were obvious. They filtered distractions. They knew how to wait, to question, to probe beneath the surface until the real truth emerged. But you can't develop discernment without discipline. You have to train your mind to think clearly, to challenge assumptions, to pause before reacting. You must learn how to observe others without judgment, but with understanding. You must study patterns, not just moments. Because wisdom lives in patterns, and the one who sees patterns early becomes powerful quickly. When you're discerning, you're not easily fooled. You don't fall for flattery. You're not seduced by temporary gains. You measure people by consistency, not charisma. You measure ideas by their alignment with purpose, not popularity. And that one skill, more than talent, connections, or even ambition, will protect your path and multiply your growth. This is why discernment is not optional. If you want to rise, it's essential. Because your decisions will either become your foundation or your downfall. One wrong alliance, one rushed agreement, one moment of blindness, and years of progress can vanish. So become the kind of thinker Solomon was. Don't speak first, observe first. Don't react fast. Weigh deeply. Don't follow every voice. Listen for the one that rings with truth. When you master discernment, you don't just protect your future, you shape it. See through the world, and the world will never control you. Power without principle is poison, and Solomon understood that better than anyone. He ruled over a kingdom rich in wealth, vast in territory, and unmatched in influence. But his strength didn't come from armies, it came from alignment with principle, with purpose, with a moral code that anchored every decision. That's the kind of power that lasts. Because real power is never about control over others. It's about control over self. We live in a time where influence is mistaken for power, where followers are mistaken for leadership, where popularity is often confused with greatness. But Solomon's reign shows us the truth. The highest level of power is internal. It's the ability to act with integrity when compromise would be easier, to speak with clarity when confusion is loud, to stand still when the world demands reaction. Napoleon Hill echoed this when he wrote about the principle of definiteness of purpose. Without it, a person drifts easily, influenced, easily persuaded, easily broken. But when you're grounded in principle, you stop living on emotion and start operating from conviction. You stop being tossed by the opinions of others and you start moving with unshakable direction. Principles are more than morals. They are mechanisms of mastery. They're filters that help you decide. They're the blueprint that shapes your character. When Solomon had to make impossible judgments, he didn't turn to popularity or pressure or even precedent. He turned inward to what was right. Because what's right doesn't change even when it's unpopular, even when it's inconvenient. That kind of consistency builds trust, and trust is the real currency of leadership. You cannot fake principle. You cannot outsource it. You can only live it. And every time you choose to stay true to your word, to act with honor when no one's watching, to align your actions with your beliefs, you become unbreakable. But it takes courage to live that way. It's easy to take shortcuts. It's easy to bend when no one sees. But greatness isn't built in comfort. It's built in the invisible moments when you tell the truth instead of what's convenient, when you honor your values even when it costs you something, when you walk away from what's easy to protect what's eternal. And that's what Hill meant when he said that character is the cornerstone of all real achievement. You may gain power by charm, by strategy, even by deception, but you only keep it by principle. So ask yourself, what anchors you? What governs your decisions when no one is watching? You led by momentary advantage or by timeless values? Because when you live by principle, you don't just lead others, you become someone they want to follow. Your strength speaks without shouting, your consistency becomes your credibility, and your life begins to align not by force but by integrity. Never forget, true power is not loud, it is loyal to something higher. And when you choose principle over pressure, your life stops drifting and starts leading. The fifth key to Solomon's wisdom wasn't in what he said, it was in how he listened. In every account, Solomon speaks last, he listens first. Not just to gather facts, but to gather meaning. That's something most people never learn because most people listen to reply, not to understand. There is a hidden strength in listening that most of the world overlooks. We're taught that influence comes through speaking, through persuading, through commanding attention. But Solomon flipped that idea on its head. He showed that the one who listens really listens, often holds the greatest power in the room, not because they say more, but because they understand more. Listening is not about silence, it's about perception. It's the ability to feel what's not said, to detect intent beneath tone, to observe not only the content of words, but the pattern in which they're delivered. And this requires presence, a total awareness, a full suspension of your own ego so you can enter someone else's world without judgment or interruption. Napoleon Hill, too, emphasized this power in his writings. He spoke often about the mastermind principle, not just gathering with others, but absorbing their ideas, refining them through shared insight. That process requires humility. It demands that you place wisdom above pride. And in a world addicted to broadcasting, true listeners are rare and therefore valuable. Solomon's capacity to lead did not come solely from divine favor. It came from his willingness to listen longer than most, people were willing to speak. It's how he made decisions that stood the test of time. Because what you listen to most often becomes what you believe, and what you believe shapes how you act, lead, and live. Now pause and ask yourself, what are you listening to, not just in conversation, but in life? Are you tuned in to wisdom, to truth, to silence, to growth? Or are you constantly feeding on noise, distraction, and validation? Who you listen to determines what becomes possible in your life. Listen to small minds, and your vision shrinks. Listen to fear, and your steps hesitate, but listen to the voice of principle, clarity, and truth, and your world expands. That's not just psychology, that's spiritual law. The input determines the outcome, but listening also reveals something deeper. It shows the level of self control you've developed. Can you hold space without dominating it? Can you receive an idea without instantly needing to outshine it? That's discipline, that's maturity, that's leadership. Greatness doesn't always speak first. In fact, it rarely does. Greatness watches us, greatness observes, greatness learns in silence and speaks with precision. And when it speaks, it's unforgettable. That was Solomon's genius. He didn't speak often, but when he did, nations listened. So train yourself to listen, not passively, but actively. Develop your ability to read the room, to sense energy, to understand people when others talk. Don't just wait to speak, lean in. Make it your mission to hear what most overlook. Because in those hidden details, those pauses, those subtle shifts, that's where truth lives. And if you can hear what others miss, you will see what others never will. Let the world speak. You listen, that's where wisdom begins. Legacy isn't built in a moment. It's etched over time by choices made in private, by standards maintained in silence, by wisdom passed on, not just through words, but through example. Solomon didn't just accumulate knowledge, he embedded it in generations. And this, perhaps more than anything, defined his greatness. Because what's the point of wisdom if it dies with you? The highest form of intelligence isn't hoarding insight, it's transferring it. It's translating what you've learned into principles that outlive you. That's what Solomon did when he penned the Proverbs, succinct phrases packed with clarity designed to outlast culture, empires, even his own reign. His wisdom became portable. It moved through time because it was rooted in truth, not trend. Napoleon Hill understood this too. His work wasn't just a study of wealth or ambition, it was a blueprint meant to be handed down. Hill wrote for legacy. He wanted his readers not just to succeed for themselves, but to multiply that success into their families, communities, and the world. He knew that true transformation spreads not by force, but by influence. And influence is earned, not demanded. Solomon's influence didn't come from military dominance or fear. It came from the fruit of his life. His name attracted leaders from distant lands, not because he advertised it, but because they saw the effect of his choices. That's the mark of real legacy. When people look at your life and don't just admire what you've built, they want to understand how you built it. But legacy isn't about perfection, it's about persistence in the right direction. It's about planting ideas and values in others, even when you may not see them bloom. It's about understanding that your voice carries beyond your lifetime through the habits you model, the standards you hold, the courage you show, the discipline you live by. So what are you teaching? Without even trying, what do your actions say when your words are silent? Because the people around you, especially those who trust you, are always learning from you. They're watching how you respond to pressure, how you handle failure, how you treat others. When there's nothing to gain, that's your legacy in motion. Not a speech, not a post, not a one-time success, but a pattern, a reputation earned daily by how you live. And it begins with a decision to think beyond yourself, to see your life not just as a container of goals, but as a conduit for impact, to shift your mindset from what can I gain to what can I give that endures. That's where immortality lives, not in fame, not in fortune, but in influence that stretches beyond time. Solomon's wisdom made him great, but it was his willingness to share that wisdom clearly, consistently, and humbly that made him immortal. So live in a way that echoes. Don't just build for today, build for tomorrow. Build for people you may never meet. Let your life become a voice, one that speaks even when you're gone. That's the highest wisdom, that's legacy.